People have decided that institutions don't matter because they're the only people on earth who matter. You can see this philosophy carried out in policy, not just in terms of social policy and sort of approach to social issues, but the left-wing belief that exceptions ought to make the rules because, after all, the rules aren't great for everyone. That belief system ends with some pretty pathetic ramifications for all of human society. So, for example, California has now mandated that every big box store in California, this kicked in the new year, every big toy store is required to create a gender-neutral toy section. Why? Why? So the answer that people will give you is, well, we need a gender-neutral toy section for those kids who are having trouble with their gender identity. And so what you're really saying is that gender doesn't exist. Right? What you're really saying is there's no such thing as biological sex or human proclivities that are directed by biological sex or connected to it. Right? That human tendencies are not connected to sex. And anyway, we have to redefine sex across the biological spectrum to account for the fact that there are some people who feel uncomfortable. A vast, vast, vast minority. Okay, this is not how you make societal rules, right? Disassembling basic ideas of the reality of male and female. That is not the way that you promote human happiness. That is the way that you promote chaos. And once again, the left does not seem to care about the fact that male and female are pretty rigid categories biologically. And when I say pretty, I mean innately rigid categories. And that human activities within those categories tend to fall along somewhat stereotypical lines. And that's not a bad thing. That societally speaking, that's quite a good thing. That doesn't mean that there aren't exceptions to the rule and we ought not treat those people with tolerance. We should. But that does not mean that you redefine gender entirely. And yet this is seen as a positive good. Why? Because there are exceptions. And we have to make sure that all of society is restructured in favor of this small group of people who have a problem with the societal institutions. And this is a good thing. By law. Again, somebody fills the gap, folks. When you blow up the institutions, something else fills the gap. Now it's compulsory government gender theory. Here we go. This is a report from NBC News on the new California law.
This might seem like a silly piece of typical California politics, but the truth is that big box toy stores across the country have been moving in this direction. Both Walmart and Target have done away with gendered toy sections. And experts say that's good because gendered toys shape how children see themselves and each other.
Yep. Who are these experts, by the way? Are they experts who care about human flourishing? Absolutely not. They're experts who don't care about the majority of children flourishing because it turns out that kids like gender roles. Okay, by the way, this is true in primates as well. Okay, if you find female primates will try to comfort, they'll turn random objects into dolls and they'll try to comfort them, and male primates will turn everything into a weapon. They will look for machines. This is true for monkeys. It's also true for human beings. It turns out that gender roles are quite good for kids. Kids like rules. Kids like to be told that there are gender roles and that what they have are specifically created biological powers that merge with civilizational institutions that re-inculcate very important things about humanity. That boys grow up to be men, who are supposed to be protectors and guardians, and that girls grow up to be women, who are supposed to be creators and nurturers. This does not mean that women can't also be protectors and guardians, or that men can't also be nurturers. It does mean that there are stereotypical attributes to masculinity and femininity, which, by the way, even the trans community acknowledges, which is why they attempt to adopt the stereotypical garb of the opposite sex in order to claim membership in it very often. Right? Have surgeries to effectuate that change. But the experts say that the institutions are bad. Why are they bad? I have a question. Why are they bad? Were there really a huge number of kids so deeply disaffected by societal institutions around gender? Like huge numbers of kids who walked into toy stores and just started weeping because the Barbies were in the girls section and the Nerf guns were in the boys section. Was this an overwhelming societal problem, or was it that experts don't like the institutions because all institutions are militating factors in favor of civilizational things that are good and positive, and they don't like the civilization itself, and they want to remold the civilization itself? Who are these experts? Why are they experts on kids? What makes them an expert? Truly. What even makes them an expert on human happiness? In order to direct policy, you have to determine what is the good you are seeking with the policy. For whom are you seeking this good? It is pretty obvious here. The good that they are seeking for society is tearing down roles, because roles are inherently bad because we are all malleable widgets. And if you get rid of societal roles, you can remake humanity as essentially a piece of clay in the mold that you wish to remake it. That is a utopian, nonsensical dream that always ends in tyranny. Always. Utopianism ends in tyranny. There's a point that Karl Popper made, and he happens to be correct. It's not just with regard to things like gender and people on the left. Why do you even care? The same reason you care. The same reason you do. You made a You made a law, guys. Okay, so you cared enough to make a law compelling toy stores to have gender-neutral toy sections. Don't tell me I shouldn't care about that. When you're openly saying you wish to remold society and destroy societal institutions. Who's got two thumbs and wants you to like and subscribe?